Today we're updating the legendary investment tier list for Rise of Kingdoms, not only to include Margaret and Heraclius and Babur, but much more importantly, to account for the fact that the museum buffs are now absolutely insane. Double relicing commanders has changed where you put your sculptures and which commanders you invest in. So stick around in this video for very important updates to where I think the best places are to put your legendary commander sculptures in Rise of Kingdoms. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And what I want to do is make big changes to where I think you should put your legendary commander sculptures, because man, these museum buffs change a lot. And although the commanders we have today are still really strong and hit just as hard, the purpose of this list is to give you a sense of the longevity of the investment. In other words, when you put your sculptures into a commander, I want you to get value with that commander for like 2+ years. I don't want you to feel like in half a year from now or a year, you would rather have put those sculptures somewhere else, that you could have got a much longer lasting investment. This, by the way, is different from how good the commander is right now. Remember, commanders could be very good right now, but not a very good investment. A perfect example of that is like CJ and Ramses. They're in the just no category. We've talked about them in previous versions of this list at length. They hit hard. They're good in the field, but they're a terrible investment. A terrible investment. You wouldn't want to put sculptures into them compared to all the other things you could put sculptures into. So just to give a sense of how commanders actually perform in the field, later, I've got another list for you that will be a review of exactly how good the commanders are right now. So this first part is going to be, how good is the investment? How long do I think they will be good? And the second part will be, and how good are they exactly? Now, if you like these sorts of videos, do me a huge favor, throw a like on the video and consider subscribing to the channel. Your putting a like on the video supports my channel tremendously, so thank you for honoring my commitment to your getting the best knowledge possible about Rise of Kingdoms by throwing a like on the video. Let's start by reminding you how each of these categories work, then we can place Margaret and Babur and Heraclius very easily actually, and the majority of the time we'll be shifting around commanders based off the changes to the museum buffs. So, the top priority means that if you just get to Season of Conquest, these are the most important commanders you should focus on. Remember, you only have so many sculptures. You can't focus the 10+ commanders I have up here toward the top. And the more top priority commanders I have on this list, the less relevant each recommendation is. I joked last time I made this video that I used to work places where they would say everything is the #1 priority, but everything can't be the #1 priority. So the top priority list is very small, and it's intentionally small. Low priority is the things you would do after you have the top priority done. Before Season of Conquest is commanders that you should try to wrap up, finish your investments in them before you get to KVK Season 4 and beyond. And if you're brand new to the game, KVK stands for Kingdom versus Kingdom. You'll get into your first KVK pretty soon. The niche role are commanders that you work on only if you have a very specific thing you're trying to do. Like, I want a 3rd cavalry march or a 3rd infantry march. Or, for example, if you wanted to do something really cheesy with Attila Takeda or with Pakal and Harold, where you sort of pop out of your city and get incremental value. I don't recommend that as a strategy, but these commanders have a niche role, and that's how it's represented. The just no category, I really should expand. These are commanders that just aren't worth investing sculptures in, because I'm trying to give you the meta today, the most effective tactic available. That's not to say that there aren't other things you can do. It's just, I want to give you the single best route that I know. And then lastly, the free section. Look, you should work on these commanders for free over time. They're cool once you get them, but otherwise I wouldn't put sculptures into them. That's the objective of that section. So with all that said, let's do the really easy job here of dropping Margaret and Babur and Heraclius into this list. Heraclius is a garrison. Free to play and low spenders should not be working on garrisons. So there's really no reason for you to work on this commander. He goes in the niche role, okay? This is a fielding list. I should have stated that more clearly at the start. This is all about the open field and how they perform in that context. Now, from here, Margaret and Babur actually are good. I think range is going to be good. Do I think that they belong in the low priority category? No, I actually don't think so. They have a niche role. They do this weird thing. It's ranged attacks. I think it's going to be very good. And over time, we'll see exactly how good that is once people actually get into the sort of legendary equipment you need to really activate it. But I would drop them in niche role at best. I would not bump them up as a low priority. I would not put them certainly anywhere near the top priority category. So now that we dropped those in there, I mean, that was easy, right? The big update to this list is because of the museum buffs. And let me tell you, this dramatically changes the lifespan of a number of commanders. And these commanders I'm about to move are better than some of the commanders you can get a double relic onto now. But given that you can get a double relic, why would you drop 700 sculptures into another commander? You could just double relic one of these other guys and be in a great spot. So with that said, the first commander we need to talk about is Minamoto. Now, I still think he's a before Season of Conquest only investment, but I actually would bump him like all the way over to the left. I mean, this is designed to be a free-to-play low spender list, but if you were spending, I mean, that is some really great investment right there to drop 200 bucks in Minamoto at the start of the game, and then you get to the end game and you can double relic him and still use him in there. And the weirdness of this is that now that you can double relic Minamoto, giving him, what is it, like 30% of defense and attack? That means there's not as much reason to invest in XY. And before people freak out, because I know there will be people freaking out, XY is still better than a double relic Minamoto, in my opinion. I like the area of effect damage and the area of effect debuff. However, you got a lot of projects up here, man, in the top priority, low priority. The fact that you can carve off one of those projects is pretty damn good. XY was the 4th best cavalry commander anyways, which means he's already on the chopping block when new cavalry show up maybe in 6 months, maybe at most 9 months. I don't know. The commander cycles are a little weird since the developers shifted when leadership arrived. But as you may recall from a number of my previous videos, it's a very risky invest to pick a commander that you might drop off the list and prefer someone else very soon. So I think you could stick around with the Minamoto for a very long time and be very happy. And I'll remind you again that Bunny was using Minamoto in the open field. And, Bunny is a player I've covered in the past. Card will be up in the top. 300 million power plus player with an insane number of dead troops. 200 million T5 plus dead troops, if I remember correctly. Access to whatever commander he wants. And for a time, he was using Minamoto because Minamoto is still really good single target damage, really good to swarm a garrison, and now he's double relic. He's insane. But XY is not the only commander that's getting bumped down to a niche role today, and that's actually Honda Tadakatsu. Because here's the thing. Yeah, you could put 700 sculptures into Honda Tadakatsu, and he will be better than Mehmed. But you could just double relic your Mehmed and be really happy with him. So double relic Mehmed, I'm going to shift him left just a little bit. I mean, I think the double relic Esong is still really good. I think the Alex is still really good as phenomenal before Season of Conquest investments. But why would you put sculptures, 700 of them, into Honda when you could put them into Mehmed? It's great, good enough. He's free. You could work on him over time, even if you wanted from the daily special offer, although I don't think that's a great plan compared to some of the other options you get today. But I just don't think you need Honda in the same way that he was such a huge leap and improvement before. Yes, he's better than Mehmed. No question about it. The slow is really good. Damage over time is really good. The skill damage amplification on him is really good. But the extent to which he's differentiated from Mehmed is much smaller, and you got plenty of other projects. And there's one more commander, by the way, that I think no longer belongs in low priority. He becomes a niche role commander, and that's Nebu. And this is going to be really contentious because Nebu is currently, in my opinion, the second best primary commander for archers. He's your second best option. I mean, Boudica's the best, and then you use Nebu plus somebody else as your second best option. But the thing is that I think we're about to get new archers just around the corner. And so this would be a really weird time to go invest in Nebu, given that I think we're going to be less than 3 months away from a better commander than Nebu for the open field to be a primary commander. So I'm going to bump him down for now. I would maybe put him back up if we see that the new commander has to be the secondary and he works really well with Nebu. Fine. Then I'll move him back. But for now, I honestly think he's a little bit of a risky investment you need to know what you're doing because new archers should be very soon. Now, if you already have him, he's amazing. He's who I'm using. Remember, this isn't about how good are they in the field right now. This is about should you put sculptures in the commander right now. And the only reason that Artemisia, I think, can stay where she is that she's just got this really unique and very powerful role with Boudica Prime. However, if you were bringing just one Archer March, I think you just use Boudica Isong. That's what I'm doing on my restart account, and you're fine. You don't need the Artemisia. But if you're bringing two Archer Marches, I think that Boudica Art is pretty damn good. And then currently it's Nebu Isong. I think the new view of the world is going to be new commander plus Isong. That's my best guess. I think Henry is also a very good, tanky, open field option. And I actually want to move him up in the niche role list. But that doesn't change, I think, Artemisia being still pretty damn good in her spot there. Now, there were other commanders that also got a double relic that's really good. That includes Ethelfled, Mulan, and Caesar. The thing is that you can only work on so many commanders at a time, okay? You really can't do that many all at once. And between putting your universals into, Caesar or Mehmed or, into Isong in the early game or Alex, I think the clearer project is the Mehmed. And also I think Saladin stays where he is up here because we know that he is about to probably get a museum buff as well. I think he's going to be really good. Charles Martel also now has a double relic, as does Richard I. I think these commanders remain in their spots. I wouldn't move them around based off of those changes. And as a friendly reminder, because you're so sculpture limited in the early game, I think that it's worth maybe putting a small number of sculptures into like Mehmed or into Charles Martel. These are gold key commanders where I historically say you shouldn't put sculptures into them, as long as you keep in mind the fact that you've got these other projects that you can't just open up a gold key and potentially get their sculptures for, like Isong. Prioritize that over your Mehmed and your Charles Martel. And you should also, toward, KVK Season 3, be hoarding for your top priority, low priority commanders. If you wanted some more detailed explanation around why these commanders are ranked the way that they are, the ones that we haven't talked about in this video, I'll have a card up in the top for my last video that goes in depth on commanders like Pakal and Harold and Cyrus and all these other guys and why they're here. What I want to do in this video instead is show you a new view that I'm testing out for my overall monthly tier list. And I want to get your feedback, but also I think it's really important to see, like, hey, okay, Chisgule, these are what you think are the good investments, but what if I already have these commanders? How are they doing in the field right now? Let me show you. This is a very aggressive tier list. For those of you that have been following my channel for a while, I've been producing monthly videos where I say a commander is S plus or minus, A plus or minus, B plus or minus, and there's really not that much differentiation among the very best commanders. The majority of them are S or A because they're all actually really, really strong. So what I wanted to do this time around is take a cut at making it perhaps more visual for where a commander is in terms of their open field strength. And also I wanted to much more heavily differentiate between the very best commanders and also the ones that are good in the field, but not a good investment right now, okay? So up at the very top, you have almost the exact same. In fact, it is purely identical to the high priority commanders. I mean, it's just not a coincidence that that's the case. But from there, we've got a bunch of commanders in the A category. That includes Sargon, Guan, William, Trajan. And for those of you that have been following along with my guidance for Trajan, I've been very consistent in saying how powerful he is, and I pointed out that in the 365, 1960, 1093 KVK, that he was going to be literally all over the field, and that was exactly how it worked out. So I know there's a lot of Trajan haters out there. I know there's a lot of people who say Chisgule is unrealistic to say Trajan's good because most people will never have him. But the reality is, if you're bringing 5 marches, he's good, and we have to acknowledge exactly how good he is. From here, I've got Isong, Artemisia, Nebu, I've got XY, I've got Minamoto really high on the list now. He's so good. Alexander the Great, Henry, Honda, and Ethelfled, because yes, not only was Trajan good before, but now the Trajan-Ethelfled combo, which is what they're using in 1960, by the way, that is the Ark of Osiris League team that is literally the strongest mid-fight in the game. They use Trajan-Ethel and they used it all KVK. Very, very, very strong. And if it was good before, now with, the extra attack on there, it's even better, right? Then in the B category, we've got Mehmed and Cyrus, Leo, Tommy, Gilga. I've also got Chandra Gupta. That's where I'm dropping Babur and Margaret, although maybe they should be higher. We've got Tariq Ibn Ziyad, CJ, Bert, and Caesar really high on this list. From there, Mulan, Amani, Ramses, Saladin, once he gets his museum buff, will almost certainly get a bump up here. Some people may be like, whoa, you put him so low on this list. Bro, what's that about? The thing is, you'd rather have the Chandra Gupta. He's way up here. Okay. You would probably actually get more tanky value out of a Bert, who's all the way over here. The thing about Bert, though, is that's a lot of freaking sculptures that you can't even start before Season of Conquest. And unlike, Saladin, where 5551, you're good to go. Like, you really want to expertise this dude over here. Saladin will get better with a museum buff for sure. I got Richard down here, Charles Martel, and then a bunch of other commanders that you probably are just going to use for cheeseburgering. You got Pakal and Harold, Attila Takeda. And then all the way down in the D category is like, don't use these. Like, kind of why are you using these? We got a bunch of commanders over here. Remember, this is open field, okay? I think this is a pretty good representation. I think dropping it into this format fulfills your request that you put in the comments that you wanted more differentiation. But don't hate me. A lot of people, they say they want more differentiation. Now they're going to be really mad their Ramses is a C. You said you wanted more differentiation. The reality is that the difference between C and B and A and C is not that great. But if we are differentiating, this is how I'm going to break it down if we put it into more categories. So let me know if you prefer this grading system to the one we've been using for the overall tier list that I do, where we look at all the different categories, canyon and rallying, and I'll see if you like it more if we can't shift everything into this format. It's going to be a ton of work, but you let me know if you like this more, and that's something I can do. With that said, I think looking at these two lists together, it's really obvious why I bumped down XY. It's really obvious why I bumped down Nebu, because you've got just a lot of surprisingly good options right now that are very similar. Like, I think the Minamoto is shockingly similar all the way up at the top here. I think that also Henry is like pretty dang good compared to the Nebu all the way up at the top here, right? Like, he's pretty performant. And some people would say, hey, the Henry should actually be further to the left, which for those of you that are new to this style of format, left to right is typically what's used to differentiate what is best versus worst, even within a category. And I've tried to do that as well. So if we jump our way back now to the investment tier list, these are the commanders I think are safe places to put sculptures for now. And just keep in mind, you need to know what you're doing. Even this Artemisia is a little bit suspect because, the new archers could just be really, really good and be a replace there. But I think the new view of the world for two archer marches will be Boudica, Art, and then potentially new commander plus Esong. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a switcheroo there. We'll see. Heck, even a museum buff into Tommy, which we know is imminent, could be really, really good. And would make it so that maybe even Artemisia is a bump down. Honestly, I might not be aggressive enough here in cutting down the number of commanders that are worth investing in right now. It's actually kind of shocking. But I think this is also illustrative of why I think the changes to the museum buffs is probably one of the best changes the developers have made in as long as I can remember, because it gives way more diversity to the meta, and it gives you options that you could already have and just need to start using after you drop a relic onto there. But this video is definitely already long enough, so if you have any other thoughts or comments, let me know down below. If you want to see the more detailed answers for why each commander is in one of these categories that I didn't get a chance to talk about in this video, card will be in the end screen for last month's investment tier list, and you can see, by the way, how things have shifted from the previous month to this one. Also, if you want to see that overall tier list I was describing that I did last month, card will be the end screen for that as well.